Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And take a Wile too.
And tonight, we are talking Mr. Banks. That's right, folks. It is the continuation of Fantasia month. Now, Dragon, you were at the Baltimore Comic-Con, rubbing knuckles with is that rubbing elbows, not knuckles, with Colossus and stuff like that, having an awesome time. But we've been kind of waiting on you to get back, so let's do it, folks. We've been over Fantasia. We've been over Fantasia 2000, but let's talk about the Fantasia that could have been. Now, importantly, folks, you will find a link in the description to a playlist that I have personally curated of the shorts that we're going to be going over. This selection of shorts is basically going to kind of be essentially the shorts that Disney did over the years. There's certainly more shorts that Disney did that we could have included. This was another sort of like process of getting it on the cutting room floor and everything and figuring out what stuff really stuck. But essentially the idea is all of these shorts that we're talking about are so good and fit so much into the realm of a good Fantasia segment for different reasons that we wanted to hypothetically get all these shorts together and talk about the Fantasia that never was. Now, Dragon and Jacob, you guys had a little bit of input. You actually specifically requested that I included one short in particular that I won't spoil what it is, but it's emotionally devastating, I'll say that much. But other than that, this was mostly my curation, so I'm curious to know what you guys thought of watching these shorts kind of all in a row.
I mean, right now we're as we go through.
Obviously, your curation needs work because we had to straighten some things out with one of them. So,
okay, well, I'm just saying, in terms of the actual shorts, sitting down and watching the 8 shorts, how do you feel? Was it a good? Did you feel like you got a good representation of Fantasia-esque animation?
Kind of. I felt Fantasia. I don't know if it was a cohesive, a full experience of Fantasia. I didn't feel Fantasia kind of hills and valleys of Fantasia.
Well, obviously, we don't have the hypothetical animated Deems Taylor voiced by Corey Burden that we'd love to have in this hypothetical Fantasia.
Well, there are two things we got to clarify. One, of course, the animated Deems Taylor revolves. Basically, if this this is what if Fantasia here, the Fantasia never was made, we'd recommend that as the framing device because we love that Deems Taylor. We love the mystique and everything with him. We also love the Corey Burton variation on Deems Taylor. We'd have an animated Deems Taylor. Voiced by Corey Burton, kind of introducing the segment.
Maybe Corey Burton himself just introduced them.
Well, I mean,
I know.
Deems Taylor, though. Also, Tiki, now these I want to clarify because the first half almost of this, at least the first couple of these. Remember, they were mentioned by Bette Midler.
Yeah, you're right, and that's why I included them.
Yes, and I wonder if you would you want to recap any backstory on those, they were considered.
Yeah, sure. I have very brief backstory on all of these, but let's just jump right into it with the first selection. The first selection is the abstract kind of toccata and fugue style opening segment, if you will, and I went with Aquarius de Brazil from Saludos Amigos. Now, this was definitely a standalone segment. Was never meant for a Fantasia or anything, and as a matter of fact, it's kind of this was a little bit difficult to knock down because it's kind of the part that I really like. It is really Fantasia-esque, kind of ends sort of abruptly and goes into a Donald Duck short. So that's what Dragon was talking about with sort of the some issues. But other than that, I really like this short just because of the pure old school Disney magic of it all. I just love the animation of the paintbrush and all the different combinations of things you think it's a bunch of bananas but it's actually a bunch of toucans, you know what I mean? Just all that kind of stuff is just so fun for me.
As an aspiring artist myself, it's you wish that they made actual artistry was as easy as just tapping the paintbrush a few times.
Now, this really is the Tiki. I think this serves absolutely the purpose you're going for here in the opening, because it is in every way, an abstract kind of. It's a great kind of opening vibe you want to establish. It shows the magic of animation in the creation of Brazil. It shows like you can kind of make anything really entertaining. It's I feel it's breaking the rules a smidge. I'm not holding this first part against
this and Destino kind of technically break the rules a little bit.
No, Destino, I don't know about that. That one's...
Oh, I actually think Destino breaks the rules even more than this one does, but we'll get to that.
My point is, it breaks the rules a smidge, and this is like one of those, like, it's never really been tested before on Fantasia, which is not really, it's kind of fits in there. It's not really like English being said, it's very
the one
melodic.
other time that we've had this in Fantasia is like the choir in Ave Maria, which is obviously like very, very loose and not really that similar.
Essentially, the loophole for Fantasia, by my approximation with that, and honestly, like kind of going forward, would be if it's kind of a melodic sounding other language, then it would would fit. In this case, it fits. However, of course, when Donald Duck is introduced, that's very problematic in terms of now it's
that's my only problem is that it's like very abrupt that Donald kind of it's like we got this super cool, elaborate, like abstract thing going on, and it's like suddenly it's a Donald short.
So here's something I want to bring up, and we might have to do this for a few of these, especially for one in particular. But like in this kind of this Fantasia never was, assuming it was made. We would have to edit this a little bit. So let's say, where would you cut it off at? So you cut off right when Donald Duck's introduced, or would you cut out? I would
probably like maybe make a smidge of extra animation where when the bee flies into the flower mouth, instead of it exploding and turning into Donald, I would just have the flower explode into a splash of color. Just like a minor like twinge, just to give it like a big, like, bam, look at all the colors of Brazil, the end.
That's fair, but you actually could use the whole short if you stripped away the dialogue and just have them kind of meet the other characters.
Yeah, I guess, but the segment that follows afterwards with Jose Carrico is actually very dialogue heavy, so I don't think that would work.
Yeah, because they keep pulling these cards of like saying who they are. It's very kind of you could get away with it.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this one?
No, it's good.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to perhaps the most ambitious of all these selections, Destino. My God.
So Destino, out of all of these, was very much so. This was actually the Fantasia. It never was.
Totally.
Yeah, this one literally was intended to be in Fantasia.
Well, this and Bubble Boogie.
Right. So appropriately, this one feels most is one of these out of the shorts we picked that feels the most Fantasia-esque.
Did you have to settle on that image though? I mean, jeez.
I mean, this image shows the baseball allegory that I really like in this short. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we saw the payoff a little bit with the formation and when they meet each other. But
all right. So let's talk about the background on this one. Of course, Walt Disney and Salvador Dali were basically teamed up with the idea to do a really abstract piece based on a famous Spanish song. I don't know the name of that Spanish song right off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Well, I meant literally like when the mouse come together and make the formation. But keep going.
Okay. So yeah, of course, the big stylization of this short is that it was based on a series of paintings that Dali made, and the animators would essentially like fill in the blanks between the paintings, which gave this short and the character animation a very surrealistic kind of slow motion movement to it, almost a very abstract, out there kind of vibe. But
it really looks anything unlike anything Disney's ever made before or since. Really.
Or since, yeah, absolutely. It totally stands on its own, which same can be said with some Fantasia segments as well. So
I'll tell you, one of my favorite elements of
the Fantasia segments, like you can say, like, yeah, Disney probably made this. Here, it's like this almost looks like some like weird abstract animator made this. And like, I mean, not that it's a bad thing or anything.
No, I mean, you're right. You're right. It like stylistically, I see what you're saying. Like stylistically, it is very much like even something as abstract as like Pines of Rome, the whales still have the classic Disney eyes. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, like, and don't take that as a negative in any way. Though.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this does capture Dali's style. Dali's style is all about time and what?
I'm just saying I agree with you on that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all about time and motion being brought to life through animation. It's a great marriage of what that artist is all about, mixed with kind of what Disney can do with animation.
To be more blunt, this short is an acid trip.
Well, I mean, if you look at that way.
I mean, really, this short, it is a trip. It is just like, but that's what I love about it. It's like, it takes you and puts you into a completely unique headspace. And it, like I love how all the landscapes and all the imagery kind of like blend and fold into each other.
Yes. I mean, it has a great trippy kind of perspective shots all throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I love how the music, and one of my favorite elements, especially on the rewatch, I love how the music feels like 50s Disney. It feels like music you'd hear in Peter Pan.
Yeah. It's a really interesting song selection that almost kind of like, it's a weird sort of contrast to what's going on screen, but it works. Jacob, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think if anything that does feel like more classical Disney in this show, it definitely is the music.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice that they kept kind of the Walt of it all alive, even though it's it's very much kind of interpreted years later. It's completed years later, I should say.
Mm.
And there was like Dolly and John Hench, I think, was worked on this. Like that. This
yeah,
is like
John Hench was one of the big leading animators on this one.
I mean, how cool would that have been? Like Walt trusted that guy enough to work with.
If I'm not mistaken, I want to say John Hench was the one who came up with the idea to like animate the transitions between the paintings.
That wouldn't surprise me. Like he was considered one of the greatest artists at the time. And then this scene was actually like one of the remaining segments from the original sequence, though.
Yeah, right.
Which still pretty freaky.
I just love how it ends on the bell woman. The woman who makes the shape of the bell and the structure.
Oh, it's just also
we have guys on bikes with bread hats, man.
I know, right?
Bread hats.
I love how the woman is like wearing one of Dolly's famous melting washes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We could just sit here and pick apart the imagery of Destino for hours. I definitely think eventually we could do a full podcast about Destino, just recapping every single element of it, because there's a lot to get into with it.
Now, what do you guys think the meaning behind this short is?
Honestly, I think it's an allegory for how twisted up the American dream is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I've seen several people comment on that, and none of that. Nobody ever.
It's
came
just
up
with the baseball payoff. That's the only reason I say that.
Yeah.
Because it's like we see all this twisted imagery and all this floating landscapes and everything, and it all kind of culminates in just like a guy hitting a baseball, which is a very, especially to foreign people, like baseball is like a super American thing. So
I actually kind of saw how this complements one of our other picks in a way, in that it seems to be just based on this alone, because you have seemingly, again, this is my real, this very abstract looking thing here. I mean, what we have here are like these two structures on the left and the right. They meet each other and they make something beautiful. And in the short, we have the woman, and we have kind of the man who's like kind of this thinker-looking guy who comes alive.
yeah, it is a very, very abstract kind of love story in that way.
Part of me thinks it's like a love story. The destino of it all to me, read as it's kind of like destiny, as in these two again, they're kind of courting each other, but they can never get together. But their pursuit of getting together does make something beautiful, even though they're never going to be together, but their art is kind of the most together they're going to get.
Yeah, well said.
Because actually, it's like it's actually false. It's because the character is actually this story of Kronos, the Titan, and ill-fated love for a mortal woman named Dahlia. Because that's actually like the name of the characters and all that.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
We could thank Wikipedia for that.
Okay, so let's move on to probably the quickest and like basically the carnival of animals of this. Flight of the Bumblebee, or Bumble Boogie, I should say, which is absolutely I'm not sure if this specific interpretation was going to be in Fantasia, but I know for a fact that Flight of the Bumblebee was very close to being in the original Fantasia.
You know, it'd be cool if basically if you took the narration at the beginning of this and just had animated Deems Taylor before.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
So basically, that'd be what you basically strip out the dialogue, but you give it to Deems Taylor beforehand.
No, you're right, because the dialogue at the beginning of this is very much like a Deems Taylor style, like explaining what you're about to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That'd be my edit for it. Just like very simple. It's like use it and just repurpose it. Yeah, it's good chasing music.
Yeah, I think out of all the shorts, this one might be the one that syncs up the best with the music, just because it's obviously like that was the whole intent of the short to begin with.
Love how everything turns into pianos.
My favorite section is the horn section, though. I really like when he's getting blasted by all the horns.
See, to me, this is like the more interesting version of that warm-up of Toccata and Fugue. This is like kind of like just seeing the personified like this versus just like they're kind of in the clouds.
I mean, I definitely think that, look, I'll still steadfastly defend Toccata and Fugue, all right? Like, we're going to keep this conversation going. I love Toccata and Fugue. But, like, I think an argument could be made between this and Aquarius de Brazil for the opening segment. I think Aquarius de Brazil works a little bit better because, like I said, Dragon, I like my abstract imagery without much of a narrative, and that to me is what both Aquarius de Brazil and Toccata and Fugue do. So well,
if I'm splitting hairs, technically Aquila de Brazil is not technically abstract, but it's cool looking. I'm saying it's recognizable. Abstract is like you can interpret it in various ways. Like we know, okay, it's bananas turned to
right.
So,
right.
It's pretty surreal. Yeah, surreal. I guess that's better. Yeah.
And speaking of surreal, Bumblebee definitely sort of takes on the same style of some classic trippy Disney animation, like the March of the Cards or the Pink Elephants. Just kind of like the vivid colors and the crazy shapes and everything and the fast animation.
Right.
Okay, anything else with Bumblebee?
No.
All right, so this should go by fast, but of course with every Fantasia, we want to kind of pick and choose, just to keep with tradition, pick and choose one segment from the Fantasia that came before it. So we're going with Rhapsody in Blue. How do you guys enjoy your rewatch of Rhapsody in Blue in the middle of this?
Still loved it.
Still one of the best shorts from Fantasia 2000.
I would say still one of the best shorts of Fantasia, period.
It's just it's just the best kind of narrative crossover you can do in animation. It really is. It's great. With that word dialogue having this great kind of crossover. I love the music. I love just kind of that great kind of the Al Hirschfeld look come to life. It's just it's how much more can you add to that? It's fantastic.
All right, now just quickly in terms of how it fit in with the rest of the segments, how do you think of the placement here? Because this is the fourth segment, which is, I believe that's the same placement as is it the same placement as Sorcerer's Apprentice? I don't know.
Sorcerer's Apprentice is either third or fourth.
Let's see. They had Beethoven, Pines of Rome, Rhapsody in Blue, and I think Steadfast Tin Soldier. So
I got in front of me Toccata and Fugue, Nutcracker Suite. So it was third.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, I'm talking about Fantasia 2000 though.
Oh.
Like for the returning one, I'm pretty sure it was fourth in Fantasia 2000.
Yeah, let me see. Symphony, that's Rome.
Either fourth or fifth.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Symphony, that's Rome. Rhapsody in Blue, Tin Soldier. That's four. Carnival of Animals. Sorcerer's Apprentice was sixth.
Oh damn. Oh jeez. I always forget it's after Carnival of Animals.
Yeah, because remember that was the intermission.
Right.
I came back with Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then that's how it goes.
Okay, well, not quite in the same placement as Sorcerer's Apprentice in terms of the returning one, but importantly, I actually really like where I place this in terms of like, basically this comes right after Bumblebee, which is another kind of like free, like loose, kind of like, lively jazz number. But this is kind of like Bumblebee was sort of like the warm up to this. And then the short after this is going to be something that very much kind of takes everything about both Bumblebee and this and sort of like strips it away. So what do you think of that?
Really, I thought it was an interesting placement.
Think about it. You start with. I'm sorry, Jake. Continue.
I'm sorry, I was done.
Yeah, you have. You start this in terms of like what you're laying out your shorts. Here you go. You have animation with the paints. You have like ink and painting.
Mm-hmm.
You then have art with Destino. The dolly art. Then you have with Bumblebee, you have music, and with this one you have
kind of a blend of all three.
Exactly, very much a blend of all three. So it's kind of a good progression that way. It's kind of a good transcendental
cool
mixture going on there.
All right, anything else to say about this?
I can't say enough nice things of Rhapsody and Blue. I mean, I love that it kind of gives that it embodies kind of the grand history of New York, and just kind of like how you have like kind of these random people on the street, all with their very interesting stories, and they get to link up, and you kind of take the Tiki. We know, guys, we know this music so intrinsically. Every time you watch like an old movie, it was a cliche, but one of the great kind of cliches in film history. The whole, you see New York, then you hear dun 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 dun, and you have a whole short about that. It adds. Basically attaches a great story representative of the feelings you feel during that song.
Which is what any good Fantasia short should do. So
yes,
that's exactly what I said during my argument on Disney debates.
For sure.
And it talks about how, and actually talks about like the evolution of Fantasia, and it's a good way to show Fantasia used to be like that, now it's like this, and now we're still moving forward yet again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get to probably the most experimental short that I picked out, which isn't even a short. It's a teaser trailer. But it's a long 5-minute teaser trailer, so it's about the length of an average Fantasia short. Dinosaur.
Now, there's one thing you'd have to do with this to make it properly Fantasia. Only one thing, aside from obviously the ending saying Dinosaur, check out.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Aside from that, obviously. But the one thing you do have to strip out, though, take away the sound effects.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Which, that's the same thing we're going to get into with La Luna as well.
True. But however, an argument could be made that it wouldn't really. It's kind of like the Ave Maria thing slightly. It's not musical.
Yeah, I don't think with La Luna. We'll get into that when we get into that. But
I actually think I remember watching this segment in theaters once.
I know I saw this segment in theaters. I'm pretty sure it was in front of the Emperor's New Groove, I want to say.
That sounds right.
I don't know if it was Emperor's New Groove because I don't think I ever saw that in theaters.
This was on a VHS tape, but I can't remember which one.
Oh, God. I think it might have been...
The part of me wants to say it might have been the Emperor's New Groove VHS tape this was ever.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know.
But yeah, the point is you take away...
One thing I do distinctly remember is that I remember the egg opening at the end, and then some little kid in the theater said, "Ew." For a while, I actually thought that was part of the movie at first.
Oh God!
I was young and naive.
So you take away the sound effects, and you just have that James Newton Howard score.
Which, I mean, let's talk about how freaking amazing that score is.
James Newton Howard is probably one of the greatest living composers today.
The other half of Hans Zimmer.
Oh yeah. The moment when the pterodactyl kind of like cresses over the side of the waterfall and then the orchestra explodes. Oh my God. Like, I actually think, besides maybe Rhapsody in Blue for obvious reasons, this might be the best music out of all our selections.
Well, I'm not sure. It's solid. It's different music.
It's the best one to say which is better. It's the best one that's definitely not a classical piece. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There you go. That's probably a better way to put it.
Because I guess all four of our originals,
they're all very different blends of music. They really are.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So, but yes, I love kind of the frolic turned into a chase. With the with the. In the beginning, there's we have our one dinosaur just kind of going in the woods, and then of course bumps into the what was it, T-Rex?
It's a Carnotaurus.
Carnotaurus, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
folks, I'm bad with dinosaur names.
I only know that because it's like the main animatronic in the dinosaur ride at Disney World.
I'll tell you this, I completely forgot about it. This horrific. It's been years since I've seen this, by the way. This teaser, this 5-minute trailer, I guess. The horrific egg death. My God, it's like
I mean, this teaser doesn't really hold back. This was a very, very different movie for Disney.
I mean, honestly, that moment there is kind of what sells me on this as a Fantasia short, because again, it's visual storytelling, and it places importance on the surviving egg, and why we're seeing the egg kind of go through this Polar Express-like journey.
Right.
You know, like that ticket, like the unnecessary ticket bit in the Polar Express.
Also, the big reason I wanted to pick this was because originally the plan for this movie was going to have it be basically all like this, which I think would have been fucking incredible.
It would have been the first. It would have been the only good Disney nature documentary.
I mean, I think a movie because I think these 5 minutes, I think it still holds up. I mean, animation wise, the CG is obviously we've come a long way from CG since then, but at the time it looked incredible, and just the idea of blending CG characters with a live action setting for a whole movie is something that we never thought we would see. Of course, I think the main problem everyone has with the actual movie Dinosaur is just that it's just the story's forgettable. The characters, especially some of the comic relief, is kind of annoying. It's not really all that great of a story or a movie, but I just think the lost opportunity here is when we see this 5 minutes of footage, and it's all so captivating. Like I said, I think it really, really holds up. Like it's very much a Fantasia short because we get all these different moods.
And we go through land, air, and water during this.
Yeah, but like I said, we also just kind of go through all these moods of, like playfulness, then then danger, then excitement, then sort of like epic, like wonder.
The ending's great, just we end on the drop.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be as effective without James Newton Howard's epic score.
Yeah.
Now, like I mentioned, that one bit, the whole da 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 da, that bit was used in so many trailers after this trailer. Like that was like a pretty prototypical like epic movie trailer music for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. Just like I said, I just think this movie is really kind of a fascinating, forgotten specimen of Disney because it was really hyped up when this teaser trailer came out. I mean, everyone was talking about this thing. Adults were talking about this thing, like how different it was, how realistic the animation was, how bold of a concept blending live action with CG was. It was a bold thing for Disney to do. So I think just for that experimental reasons alone, I think this definitely deserves a spot in this curated selection.
Now, of course, just looking at it in the context of Fantasia, of course, it's another dinosaur.
Yes, which is definitely another reason why I wanted to kind of gravitate towards that. I think this is actually a much more accessible dinosaur piece than Rite of Spring is.
Yep. Yeah.
Mostly because you don't have to sit through like 4 minutes of abstract planets.
Just get to the volcano already.
Okay.
I'll be honest here. When I was rewatching Fantasia for our commentary on it, or not so commentary, but retrospective, I actually did skip to the volcano.
All right.
Sadly, no. I usually don't like to skip over Fantasia segments, but that one I was like, yeah, it'd probably be better just to skip to the volcano part.
Well, that first one, yes. Again, the first Fantasia, it's no 2000. 2000 has you.
It's so funny that we've all kind of come to that consensus that 2000 is way better.
2000 is more watchable. Again, you have to admire the majesty and everything of the original. You got to be in a mood for the original. 2000, you can watch anytime.
Like sitting down and watching a piece of entertainment, 2000 is just as much as I respect the original, 2000 is way more watchable. You're right.
2000, yeah, it's more watchable. Okay.
All right. So let's get to oh God. Let's get to the thing that Jacob and Dragon made sure was included on here. So I blame you guys for my dramatic trauma.
Oh, you had to choose that picture too.
Yeah.
Oh God.
The little match girl.
So, in the immortal words of Vera Farmiga, Dragon.
Yep.
Say it.
It's so sad.
I mean, really, that's all we need to say about this freaking thing. Oh my God.
Why did I do it? You do the impression.
It's so sad.
Yeah, there you go. That's better.
Well, you're just mocking this short now.
No, I'm not.
Hey, that is the highest. Hey, that's Farmiga, man. That's
exactly.
All right. Jesus Christ, this short is incredible. I mean, it's brutal.
You see what we're talking
it's
about,
incredible.
Right?
What? Now do you see why we want to include it in this?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
have you ever seen
undeniable. It's the most.
Did you ever see it before, Tiki?
Actually, no.
So for me, with Destino, this is the most Fantasia-esque out of all of our selections, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean, it has the classical music selection. It's based on a Hans Christian Andersen story, like the kind of like Steadfast Tin Soldier.
And this is like the Hans Christian Andersen story that feels the most like real, legit Hans Christian Andersen. Ariel turns into foam at the end of The Little Mermaid. You know what I mean?
She turned into foam?
Yeah, that's what happens at the end of Little Mermaid. Yeah.
What do you mean by foam? Like just
like sea foam.
She basically dissolves into the sea.
Why?
It's a long story. We don't have time.
My mind blown about. Oh my God.
Basically, Disney's adaptation is basically in name only.
Yeah, pretty much.
Alright, so basically it's a Jungle Book type situation.
Kind of, yeah, kind of. Although I would say there's more Hans Christian Andersen in Little Mermaid than there is Rudyard Kipling in Jungle Book. But anyways.
Okay.
Man, oh man.
Like I remembered this being very sad, but but rewatching it, I actually forgot how sad it actually was.
It's it's not just sad. It's just brutal and almost cruel.
As I pointed out in our chat, it's beyond brutal. It's downright depressing.
It is.
So I'll tell you, it did remind me of.
Let me just say this: very few things actually make me cry. This made me cry.
I hear you.
I mean, I'm kind of on borderline tears right now. So just trying to remember it. You can probably tell by my voice.
We'll say this: it did.
Sorry.
It did remind me of the ending of a certain show. It was really that beautiful.
Oh God.
Tiki knows what I'm talking about. They remind me of the ending of a certain show. It was just like, they kind of got me on the rewatch with that in mind. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's basically the music just linking up so well, and of course this final image very much kind of in line with reference.
I mean, I don't even want to really talk about like the specifics of this, just for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. But I just love how
it's technically a Christmas short too.
It is technically a Christmas short, yes.
But yeah, I love the idea of basically
this film is a very basic 3-act structure. You know what I mean?
It's a very tragic premise.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The entire thing is tragic.
It's like, hey, pitch. Okay, we gotta come up with an idea for a short here. What's the saddest thing you can think? What story can we adapt that is the saddest thing ever? And how can we add more sadness on top of it? Little match girl. Good. Now we make it more sad. Matches. Yes. She's dying of hypothermia. Right. So we got. she's
pretty much how the story goes. I mean, the story the original story even ends with like. It pretty much ends like this. I mean, and the whole comet scene at the end. And like the story goes, that's actually signifies somebody dies and gone to heaven.
I did notice something on the rewatch. The fact that they actually have a little bit of it was a 1-horse. Crap, it might have been 2-horse, but it was like a slate of grandmothers. From what I understand, this woman's supposed to be your grandmother.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, that's.
I'm saying, I saw in the original source material, it's supposed to be your grandmother, so I think that's kind of the unofficial.
Yeah, and considering that she takes her to heaven at the end, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It has a tragic yet hopeful end in that regard. So I love this image for so many reasons because again, it is a tragic reality mixed with kind of the kind of the hopeful thought.
I mean, it's a total gut punch. It's like it makes you think like, oh, she found her grandma. Oh no, she's dead.
I'm so glad. I respect it so much for not shying. Basically, if they, I'm so glad they didn't pan up a little bit. So they would have hit you. They would have hid the girl. I'm glad we didn't hide the body.
Yeah, I agree, because seeing that body at the end is really just what makes this whole thing just come together.
Like I said, that's what makes the total gut punch.
Yeah.
It's beautifully sad.
It's so sad.
It's beautifully so sad.
All right.
So sad.
Okay, so let's get to our next segment, our penultimate segment, which is La Luna.
La Luna.
Our one Pixar short.
Yes.
I don't know, guys. Like, to be honest with you, you guys kind of landed on La Luna as the Pixar short. I think there's a couple other Pixar shorts that are a little bit more Fantasia-esque. I still think that Partly Cloudy is a bit more Fantasia-esque, but this is, I still
think in terms of music and visuals, this definitely fits along more.
Well, I'm just saying, like, much like Dinosaur, this has sound effects, and it doesn't have dialogue. It has gibberish.
That's what I'm saying. The gibberish, I think, is, I don't know. I mean, I'll admit it. Yeah,
I think gibberish is excusable.
Yeah, I would excuse the gibberish, but I could see an argument being made for just getting rid of, basically kind of muting the dialogue, maybe. But again, I like the gibberish.
Honestly, yeah, if you muted the dialogue, then it would be perfect as a Fantasia short. The dialogue is really the only thing that's out of place with it as a short.
I just think, like, Donald Duck speaking at the end. I know you didn't include this in what you consider the short. I'm just saying that as an example. Like, that's obviously that's not Fantasia. You hearing just something super recognizable being said, but I don't know. I think I like the as long as it's not. I don't know. As long as it's not English. As long as it's not like kind of a. That's kind of brown. As long as it's not just spoken English, I think it's okay.
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah, I think it just kind of umbrellas under like as long as it's not like spoken English, then you can get away with it. As long as it's like something kind of unique or preferably musically tied.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, I mean, in terms of the short itself, I mean, it is quite lovely. This was
ever seen this one?
What?
You ever seen this one before?
Yeah.
Good.
This was attached to Brave, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yep, yeah. And it was better than the film itself.
Well, come on, let's not be mean. Come on.
I mean, I'd probably agree just in terms of like, the percentage of quality of this compared to the percentage of quality in Brave.
Well, it really had that with Lou with Cars 3.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's probably the most lopsided example.
Lou is absolutely, oh God, Lou is still so good, man.
All right.
Can we just think of can we pause this and do another Lou video and then come back to this?
No, God.
I'm gonna say we'll stay right here. As you and I will leave, we'll do a Lou video and we'll come back and Jacob will hold down the fort. It'll be fine.
Okay, so my favorite element of this short is sort of the magical realism of it.
Yes.
I love the idea of just this is these guys' job. You know what I mean? There's nothing like inherently glamorous about them doing it.
It's a thankless job, but it's an important one.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings beauty to others.
Yes, and I love the idea of the shooting stars that land on the moon have to be cleaned up and arranged. And it's basically they're custodians to the moon, and of course we have the great texture and everything on the stars. How they look.
I love the texture on the stars. The animation is incredible. It just all looks so pretty.
I love the representations. I mean, you can see it in the shot really well. Is the representations that the boy kind of fiddles with in the thing. Is that the brush is like his father's mustache, and the broom is like his grandfather's beard.
Yeah,
that's really cute, and it's a great statement on this adorable kid. He's just trying. It's adorable how this kid is emulating his male role models and his father and his grandfather. It's a great statement, kind of tradition and family, and just kind of like one wants things done a certain way. And we communicate this all with that word true dialogue, where he's fiddling with the hat, and he's like all he's communicated with their gibberish is like they're arguing through the thing. That's all it's really there. And we have like these great kind of just very memorable, really cool looking, like the reversal of gravity when he's climbing on the ladder. And he just kind of floats up to the moon. We're upside down with him. It's like, oh god, it complements the whimsy so well.
Yeah, I hear you.
Of course, the Giacchino score is also
At the end of the day, I think this is actually a pretty simple message of like kind of like, you know, like seeing your parents is like larger than life. I don't know. I kind of got that. Whereas like when you're a little kid, like any job that your parent has is like so cool and magical. You know what I mean?
I could see that. I love the beautiful new method, and this is the important thing to hit on with kind of the tradition, how things are done. These two knuckleheads, they tried everything they could to break the giant star that landed on the moon. They came up with nothing. However, the kid had a new method entirely. He had his own method where they have, again, their methods are the brush and the the brush and the broom. In this case, the kid, he tapped the top of it with a hammer and just kind of shattered into all these.
The explosion of stars is just
it's beautiful, so and they have like the Muppet effect there with their eyes are showing, because they do look very Muppet-esque in design. You have the obscurum with the giant beard. They're very Henson-esque design on the adults.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and the crescent moon reveal just brings it all home.
All right, so let's move on to the finale of this Fantasia that could have been. Let's talk about the one, the only frickin' Paperman. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about something that's like a modern classic, right?
Now, the background of Paperman, very simply, is John Carr is an animator. He's really been around. He's done a lot of things. Of course, he was with Pixar, I want to say, since Toy Story 2. I know he's been there for a while. Of course, he's worked with Disney. He's worked with even Blue Sky. And honestly, in his Blue Sky days, he was his Blue Sky days. He was going. He went to Grand Central Station, and he had all these like little interactions. And of course, he essentially. He met he would run into a girl and kind of cultivate a relationship in the ride somewhere on the train, and he did not take the opportunity he'd be haunted by the opportunity like George. That's the kind of paper man.
Really, I thought his name was Aladdin.
No, Tiki, his name is not.
I'm just kidding. He looks like Aladdin.
Anyway.
What I find fun and interesting is that it's the first film from first short in years from Disney, like in over half a century, to win an Oscar.
Which is cool. And also the blending of animation, from what I understand, was inspired by Tangled. Because again, Tangled was really they're really hyping up on Tangled, how they were going for the 2D kind of style, and John Carr just kind of saw the production of that, and he kind of saw, basically the design work going into Tangle, and really kind of inspired him, like, let's bring 2D back in a new way. Like, kind of do what Tangle did. Let's do what Tangle was trying to do even better.
To be honest with you, I think it's the lack of color in this that really sells the 2D of it all.
Here's the great thing with the color. So the color is very representative of paper, being in black and white.
Of course, the color is like, if I can compare it to anything artistically, it would be, oddly enough, Sin City, of all things.
A little, yes, and
because it's like black and white with splashes of color.
Sin City is a lot more stylized, though.
Yeah.
I think what's so great about that too is that with the black and white, I don't know if they have like paper, like newsprint, black and white, but just reading to the colors, black and white, and that's the society they live in. They live in a black and white society of, just you have your jobs. She's going to a job interview, most likely. At the point, she's doing something, and he, of course, he's an accountant. He's just very much the boss just wants him to stick to the paper. But this little interaction they have is, with her red lips on the. Making the kiss impression on the paper, and of course that is just kind of read the color passion and love, and kind of the inciting incident gets them together, and that's kind of the pursuing kind of visual image of the short, that lip imprint on the paper. So it's great kind of representation of color in this short.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Beck doing an amazing score on this.
Oh God, I love the music. Definitely one of the reasons I chose it, because the music just works so well.
It's a great build.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some great comedy in the short too.
Yeah, it's like classic Disney whimsy and all that.
Oh yeah, it's an inspired idea.
For sure.
I love the 40 setting, by the way. I love the 40 setting, and it's just this sweet idea.
In a way, it kind of feels like a little bit of a spiritual successor to Rhapsody in Blue.
In a way, I could see that, yes, because it's an inciting incident that gets them together. And what's nice here specifies that the idea of this sweet gesture, they had this little moment together, the paper brings them together. That paper, that moment, brought them together. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, and just in terms of how to end a Fantasia, like obviously, I think this is a much different...
It ends on the marriage of animation, the 2D and 3D animation.
Sure, I'm just saying compared to the other endings we've got with the big elaborate like Firebird and Bald Mountain. I think it's appropriate to end like this because like you said, Dragon, it ties. I really feel like this ties a lot of the ideas that we've been exploring together, both in terms of story and in terms of like animation and style. And B, I just think this short is just incredibly cathartic. It's just like you cannot watch this short and be in a better mood than you were before you watched it. You know what I mean? It's just such a good pick-me-up.
Don't you mean be in a worse mood? You said you can't watch it and be in a better mood than when you started.
Yeah.
I think you mean... Sorry.
All right, semantics. Yeah, I'm sorry. But,
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't know.
You're in a really good mood when you finish it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like, just ending on a high note. So.
Yeah, it is. Seriously, it is, though. It is just, it's a great different flavor with the endings that we've gotten in the other three. Of course, he has these kind of laid out there. And Bald Mountains is the big kind of operatic thing you get going on there. Bald Mountain's more of the scary tonal thing with kind of the beauty of kind of light over darkness. Firebird, that one feels very operatic, but it's very tied into nature.
Mm-hmm.
You have like kind of morals, and you have nature, and here you just have this is people, this is interaction,
Mm-hmm.
this is very relatable. Again, it's where it not only is it just like the marriage of 2D and 3D, but importantly it's it's music, it's characterization, it's all the hallmarks of Fantasia summarized into this, and it feels so true what they're going for. But
there's no real dialogue
way.
Or anything besides just like the offhand chuckle. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and also maybe they feel like the horns honking like when he runs.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, again, very minimal. That's the point. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of the gibberish. It's inconsequential. It's like because the music's overpowering. The music's getting that build. It's getting you in that emotional headspace, and it strikes an emotional chord with you like the other two do, but in very different ways. Just looking at the endings. So again, it's representative of what Fantasia is without repeating the same hat trick.
Okay, guys. Final thoughts on my selection of the Fantasia that could have been. I just realized that the episode title is the Pixar that could have been. That is not right. I'll have to change that.
The Pixar?
Yeah, that was a man. That was a.
I wish you told me. We could have had a whole different thing.
Oh, God. Okay, final thoughts, guys. Go ahead.
The Pixar. No, Jacob, you go first.
Like I definitely did. I did like these. I did like these segments. They're definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, it's quasi Fantasia-esque. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it definitely has the qualities to be an interesting Fantasia segment. If they were all stitched together, it could definitely be a Fantasia 3, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I could buy this as Fantasia 3. I mean, some of them are out there choices, and again, I'm not saying they're bad choices. I'm just saying, like, I mean, realistically, I don't think all of these would be in a Fantasia 3. A lot of this is just kind of us putting our 2 cents in. Like, Dinosaur would be a long shot because that one would be really. They have to feel really confident about using Dinosaur. Not that it's a fine pick. It's a fine pick, and it's justified, and we've went over the reasons for that why it would fit. Like commercially, a lot of these probably would not be strung together. They'd be doing some deep pulls. I mean, Destino would be safe. Magical would be the fan hope and be the smart choice. And a lot is obviously like Source Apprentice would probably be in there over Rhapsody and Blue. Even the Rhapsody in Blue was like is a fantastic choice. So I think the list is well chosen. I think the list is well chosen. Would it be the Fantasia that never was?
I mean, keep
question.
in mind, like I said, we could do a whole podcast on the Fantasia that could have been and talk about 8 other shorts easily.
Exactly. There's a lot of great, it's kind of a testament to Disney's short making capabilities, but at the same time, it's just, Fantasia built upon segments, upon experiences, and each of these are experiences that also comment on an art form, animation, art, quite literally, music. Again, it's looking at various forms of expression and storytelling, and again, just kind of visual expression. So it's really so again, it's well chosen, and I think it's well structured enough. It is. Like you could say, yeah. I mean, Aquarela de Brazil is a good kind of I guess Tiki and Fugue opening, because I was thinking like Destino would be a great starting place as well. Destino is more abstract like Tiki and Fugue, but at the same time, Aquarela de Brazil feels like a good opening act like that one. So basically, those two may be, I guess, an argument made for interchangeability, but the rest of it's pretty solid.
Okay, folks, so thank you so much for watching, and we have 2 more Fantasia podcasts on the docket for the month. We have a Fantasia 3000 pitch that we're going to do at the end, but before that, we're going to be talking about the, the most memorable movie that Disney did in the 2000s. No, I'm being sarcastic. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, starring Nicolas Cage and Jay Baruchel. Oh, boy.
Baruchel.
Can't wait for that. All right, guys. See you later.